Thank you so much, Chair. Um, the testimony we've heard today has been very concerning, and the situation that we're looking at is certainly very concerning. Um, Mrs. Zuma, I'd like to start with you. Um, we look at the story of what happened with the kidnapping of the 276 girls from Boko Haram shocked the world. We would think, and I think we would all agree, that the protection of children, the protection of girls, is the most fundamental obligation of family, community, nation. And yet, this kidnapping, this violence against these girls, is almost without precedent for us to have learned of it. I'd like to ask you why you think this kind of targeting of young girls is happening, the kind of trauma support that is there for the survivors, and what is the situation now with the Nigerian government committing to protect the right of girls to education?
So yes, indeed, the kidnapping of the Chibok girls shocked the world, and unfortunately, many of them are still in captivity till today. And other kidnappings have occurred, majorly targeting where girls are being educated. So this has created setback for the statistics of get the girl child who would access education, particularly in the north. And this creates other chains, of course, of vulnerabilities affecting their future. And as Fami mentioned, it's going to go generations, because indeed it took generations to be able to get the girl child to be able to have some level of education in Nigeria. The government is not doing enough. It's not doing enough to reassure parents that they can send their girls to school, and it's not doing enough to protect the children that are in school or those that are traveling to school. And this is one key area that the government has failed the people, the government has failed the children, and particularly girls. And it should be a priority for the nation, for the government, but for the entire society. We have very weak security structures around schools because obviously schools are being targeted. But the fact that it happened the first time, the second time, the third time shows that the government clearly has failed in this regard.
I think what's concerning to me is we're not dealing here with Nigeria being a failed state, where we see their use of enormous levels of state power and violence. And for example, you talked about how many people are on death row. So that it shows that there are priorities in terms of where the state is applying its security measures. What does it say to the families of the children who've been kidnapped? What does it say to society in general that the priority is not the protection of these young girls and their right to education?
So, with regards to priorities, have always been misplaced, in my point of view, when it comes to budgeting, and this is why we continue to have scenarios like this in the country. And for example, the issue of torture that I spoke about, leading to extrajudicial killings and the high number of individuals on death row, it clearly shows that they would rather resort to torture than equip the police to be able to have tools to be able to do their work. And you have on the other side, the police arguing that they don't have equipment, they have very poor budgets, and including the military who are on the front lines. They are supposed to, for example, protect the girls from such abductions, have come up to say they are not well equipped, they are not, they don't have the right tools. So yes, it's a problem of priority, and the government needs to redirect its priority to ensure that vulnerable groups, especially children, are protected, and we have a security, particularly the police, that is well equipped and able to carry out its work of protection in the society.
Thank you. Ms. Fahmy, I wanted to ask you, you had mentioned the issue of trafficking, and we know that in destabilized situations, issues where there's levels of violence in gangs, once again, young women, girls are targeted. Last year, I was part of the parliamentary investigation into MindGeek, the giant international porn company, and I was contacted by a number of feminists from the global south who wanted to focus on how places like Nigeria and other countries are being used as much larger trafficking rings. Has your organization looked into this? And what is the situation for human trafficking and the targeting and exploitation of young women and girls?
Thank you. Yeah, Jubilee Campaign released a report on, actually with the UN Special Rapporteur on sale and slavery. And there was a report on the role of criminal gangs in slavery. So I would refer to that because I don't have the details with me, and my colleague will be able to explain it much better. But yeah, sorry, your question was whether.
Well, what is the picture? You're referring to slavery. I'd asked about human trafficking. Is that what we're looking at? The enslavement, abuse, physical violence, sexual violence, and trafficking of young girls in destabilized areas, either by gangs or by terrorist groups.
Yeah, we are seeing that, and also during COVID, it increased, of course, with the role of digital. Sorry, but I would say during COVID we also saw an increase because of this lack of documentation, and also because of the increase in web pornography. So there was a greater what you say.
So you saw a direct correlation between the isolation of people, online pornography, and the abuse of young girls and women in the context of Nigeria. You saw that connection.
There were some trends of that, but I can't speak specific to that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry. Okay.